In honor of the June 1967 anniversary of the Loving versus Virginia case surrounding interracial marriage, I wanted to do a video on interracial relationships, whether they can be the cure for loveless singles here in America, some important do's and don'ts, and what it may look like for you if you're interested in venturing down that road based on my own personal experience. Want to learn more? Stick around. Hi, and welcome to my channel. I am Portia, the communicator, your trusted mental health life coach, and I help women get into the lifelong loving partnerships that they desire and deserve. I want to give a special shout out to all the new subscribers, and for those who are newly joining, if I say anything in this video that resonates with you, give it a thumbs up, share the content if you know it can be beneficial for someone else, and join the conversation in the comments. And speaking of which, an opening question that I want to pose to you is, what are your thoughts on interracial relationships? Yay, nay, and why? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so now let's get into the content that you came for. The question I posed in the thumbnail is interracial dating or relationships and marriage the cure for loveless singles, especially here in America? And I'm going to be honest and say it can be. And there are two main reasons why. So let's discuss that. Reason number one is if you have not had the best luck within your communal group, whatever culture you come from, just opening yourself up to venture outside of those boundaries and parameters automatically opens you up to a myriad of options. Just based on the numbers alone, you dramatically increase your probability of finding and landing love all the more when you're not limited and confined to just your specific subgroup of people. The second reason why it can be a cure for loveless singles is it takes, in my opinion, a lot more courage, care, and love to stand 10 toes down in one. It's almost spiritual because you really have to ascend or transcend the physical in a lot of ways and go beyond superficial aesthetics to really get into the core essence of who a person is and to maintain commitment. Now, this is not to dismiss the fact that some people fetishize other people based on the culture and ethnicity they are, and I'm not saying to do that. So let me be very clear. I am, however, saying that the opportunity is greater in an interracial dynamic to dig deeper and to be more focused on the true nature of a person and their essence, because there are often inherently more layers that you have to peel back and strip in order to be present and fully enwrapped in this type of relationship situation. Looking beyond what in some cases are extreme cultural differences, ethnic variances, and to still yet, despite all of that, choose one another still is a love that is beyond the typical homogenous relationships that you'd experience just being with someone who looks like you. However, let me say this. If you have historically had relationship problems and breakdowns and a bunch of crash and burns, going with a different color is not going to change that. Choosing someone from a different ethnicity is not going to erase the fact that you are always still the common denominator, because energy is energy, no matter the color, the age gap, etc. And you've really got to get present with the reasons why you've attracted the certain kinds of people, not so much the color, but the certain types of people, to see where your propensity or your compulsions or your blind spots are so that you can make personal improvements. Because without that knowledge and awareness and inner work, you will still attract the same type of person in a different avatar. It doesn't matter. If you're the good girl who always attracts the bad guys, and the bad guys are within your group, when you decide to venture out, you will find the bad guy in the other group. I'm just saying, that is the way energy works. It does not lie. You will always find an energetic match that is complementary to you, whether they're just like you or whether they are a match, like a lock and a key. So just be careful thinking that someone else outside of yourself is going to fix your situation. Now, I want to talk about a major don't in interracial relationships. As someone who is currently in an interracial marriage and has dated black, white, and everything in between, I have to say this because I have heard this from certain ladies in my coaching program, and even myself at one point, I had this certain mindset, and so I can definitely speak to it. But it is simply, do not target someone just because they come from a specific ethnic background or cultural heritage. No fetishes. I don't know if you have ever experienced being someone else's fetish, but fetishes are usually the things that people don't really like admitting in public, and they will treat you accordingly. And it sucks to realize that you are one and you don't want to project that same experience onto someone else. What I am saying, however, is to simply be open to love. This is about love. It's not about specific aesthetics. It is about whoever shows up, whether they look like you or whether they don't. And if they don't have the same skin tone, don't arbitrarily close the door, because love is experienced in every culture, every skin tone. So that's how you know that it's something that we can all have with each other. It's not limited to just the confines of your specific cultural or ethnic group. I feel interracial relationships should be organic like any other. Obviously, don't try to force something just for the sake of trying one or being in one. You should find something attractive about that person. And hopefully it's not just the physical. Hopefully it's internal qualities and characteristics that are important factors to having a stable, healthy relationship with someone. So if there are any vain ideologies that you have about having babies with a person of a certain ethnicity, or thinking that men from a certain subgroup are better than others, or feeling like you would just look better with someone who has a different shade of skin than you, I'm going to challenge you to really address and work through that and release that so that you can have a relationship dynamic that is honest. And again, that is real and genuine with whomever you enter into a commitment with. When I met my husband, I was not looking for a white man. I was focused on manifesting a man who loved me. And it just so happened that who showed up was a 6'7" tall white guy. I couldn't have put that together because I was more interested in the quality of someone's character versus their color. It just so happened that that's who it was. So I say that to say that when you really start focusing on the internal fabric of a human being, you're more likely to be open in general. You're more likely to allow and to entertain people who come from different places than you do. And that's another thing I want to say too. If you've ever found yourself interested in someone who is not of the same ethnic background as you, and you're interested in venturing into seeing what the possibilities are for you in an interracial dynamic, it is highly helpful to make sure that you are diversifying your life in other ways beyond romance. So what do I mean by that? That means that you will attract different people when you get outside of your comfort zone, when you start going different places or doing different things that you haven't traditionally done with just your subgroup of friends. When you go to different cafes, when you go do different outings that are not typical of your subgroup, when you venture out, that's when you open yourself up to organically meeting and entertaining different people from different backgrounds and things of that nature. And so I remember when I was a music artist in my former life, and I was speaking with someone about how they were able to get such a diverse crossover audience, because I just had all these musical interests that were going on. And this individual said to me, you will begin to attract a different audience when you diversify yourself first. Who are you hanging around all the time? Who are you listening to on the radio, on podcasts? What places do you frequent on a consistent basis? I'm saying that to say to you, open yourself up organically first to diversify your life in general. And that typically will open the floodgates. It's almost like an invisible signal that people pick up on that says, I'm open to interacting with you no matter where you come from, because I am putting myself out there and I'm not staying closed off. So I hope that makes sense. Now let's talk about a major do when it comes to interracial relationships. Do show up ready to learn and share. That means being willing to listen and explain, ask questions, and be ready to answer questions when they're posed to you. With this, do is kind of like a couple don't assume. Don't assume that because you are choosing them that you know the ins and outs of that person's culture, or don't assume because they're choosing to be with you that they know everything about your culture. That was one of the things that I had to learn the hard way in my relationship and marriage with my husband. I assumed that because he had dated Black girls prior to me, that he knew all the things and that his friends and family were accustomed to Black women. That is not the case. There were things that we learned along the way. So it's important to ask questions and explain and have the grace and the temperance and the understanding. Like, first of all, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, just being with the opposite sex is a lifetime worth of understanding that you inherently are met with, because men think differently than women, and you are constantly trying to understand each other the best way that you can. That goes without saying. But when it comes to ethnic and cultural differences, the understanding also has to be there that I do not know the vantage point that this person is coming from, or at least not to the degree that they do. Understanding that up front is going to be very helpful when it comes to your ability or your willingness or the awareness on a minimal level that some things do need to be discussed. And I recommend discussing these things and asking these questions up front in the beginning. So it's talking about the uncomfortabilities, politics, religion, discussing PDAs in an interracial dynamic in public, addressing or discussing your personal triggers and how those may surface, especially when it comes to microaggressions, because each culture has different ones. They are not all the same. I will also say with this, again, don't assume that because someone has traditionally been in interracial relationships, that person's friends and family don't have blind spots, because they do. And they will show up in sometimes the most unassuming ways. Prior to meeting my husband, I was dating someone who was of Latin descent, and his father told on himself, it's the Sigmund Freud of it all, told on himself in terms of what he assumed Black women were like in an intimate way. He said something that was very inappropriate to me, the hypersexuality of Black women, especially here in the States. And so you really have to be cognizant of, wait, am I being fetishized? You really have to know, like, what is someone's motivation for wanting to be with you? And you got to be honest with yourself about what your motivation is for wanting to be with another person, so that you can avoid that, because it's very icky if you find yourself in those situations, or if someone realizes that that's the situation you've put them in. Are there challenges in interracial relationships? Absolutely. Can you work through them and be better because of them? Absolutely, when you choose the right person. And if you are interested in learning how to not only attract someone and love into your life, but learning how to healthily invite that type of dynamic into your romantic experience, book a call with me. You can do that completely free. There is a link for that in the description box beneath this video. And I would love to speak with you on what it is that you are wanting to manifest into your life when it comes to love, where you currently are, and to see how my program, Rewire for Love, can help you get there. As always, I don't share everything that a situation can be or consist of because I want to hear from you. Again, drop down in the comments and let me know if any of what I have shared has resonated with you. Have you been in an interracial dynamic before, and what was it like? Would you ever consider being in one? And anything else that comes to mind. Also, what should we talk about next? I always like to get content ideas to make sure that you're engaged with me. If I'm showing up here, you're showing up here. What do you want us to discuss next? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already so that you don't miss out on upcoming coaching content videos. And share this if you feel it can be beneficial for someone else. I want to thank you for taking the time to sit with me and watch this video. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. That's all I have for now. And until the next one, take care, be blessed, and